Says I'm live, and yet I see nothing. Hey, there it goes. Huzzah. Alright, welcome back to the second Roller Coaster Tycoon stream here on Theme Parchive. Sorry if you got a push notification for the first one and it just disappeared on you. YouTube's streaming backend isn't exactly the most intuitive thing, but I think I'm starting to figure it out. Alright, so it's been a month. I found out today when setting this stream up. This was meant to be a weekly thing, but between July 4th and everything, life kind of got in the way. But we're back, and today we're going to be tackling the third. We did Forest Frontiers and Dynamite Dunes on the last stream, so this time we're going to do some Leafy Lake and hopefully some Diamond Heights. We'll see. Say hey in the chat if you're around. And yeah, just gonna hang out and have a chill time, and maybe talk some theme park news, because some stuff has been happening since the last time that I was on here. Also, holler at me if the audio needs balancing. I think I fixed it last time, or after last time. Get my vocal levels a little bit more stabilized, and get the game volume pretty balanced, but we'll see. If anybody's got any problems, just holler at me. I'll keep an eye on chat. So, Leafy Lake. 500 guests in 3 years, which we're going to fast forward through a lot of. Because I don't really want to spend 3 hours on this one, which is how long it would take if we just let it do naturally of its own accord. Hey, Fadolin, welcome. Thanks for showing up. So, and there's Holly. Hey, Holly. So, first big piece of news that's happened since the last stream is Hollywood Drift opened in California. Well, soft opened in California today. Or yesterday, actually, I think is when it first soft opened. But today was kind of insane. Some videos coming out of people trying to get on it. Some crazy crowds, especially for Hollywood. But that coaster looks amazing. And if you haven't seen some of the POVs, I definitely recommend going and checking them out, because I mean, if you've been following the construction of it, it was already looking pretty cool, and then actually seeing people on it has been kind of wild. I'm not a big Fast and Furious fan, but oh man, does that ride look fun. Way more fun than Supercharged here in Orlando does. But also, they've been, I mean, in the last month since the last stream, they've done a ton of work on the new coaster, the Hollywood Drift coaster here in Orlando, which I hate that they named them the same thing. Like, that still's gonna bug me. Just because it's not a clone, like, it's not the same ride. Name it something else. It makes it hard to differentiate. And I gotta say, that Hollywood one, what makes that coaster so special? I mean, the cars are literally shaped like the cars from the movies. That alone is pretty cool. The one in Hollywood looks, at least to me, layout wise, like it's going to be better than the one in Orlando, because the Orlando one is fairly flat. Doesn't look like it's going to have as many inversions either. Though they haven't completed the layout, so that's, you know, we'll see. I'm not passing judgment yet, but it doesn't look as cool. The one in California actually, Holly, they're at Universal Studios in Hollywood, and they're building one here at Universal Studios Florida as well. And they're pretty cool looking. They're themed to roller coaster, or to the Fast and the Furious movie franchise. The cars actually look like the cars on the roller coaster look like the cars from the movies. They've literally made it look like the Charger and the GTR and the Mazda RX-7 from the movies. It's really an incredible job. Universal did an amazing job on the ride. It's just the one here in Orlando, it has a big spike on it, which will be unique and different and kind of cool, but I don't know if it'll be as fun of a ride. But the one in California is really cool because it connects the upper and lower lots in the park. And that is something that it's one of those things where you could kind of worry that it would ruin the visuals of the park, and I kind of was a little worried about that because it's just such a historic, that hill and those two separate upper and lower lots were such an historic view. You can go back all the way to the 60s and see pictures of stuff from studio tours that really kind of highlight those two areas. And the studio tour obviously starts up at the top of the hill and goes down through the lot and tours through the back lot. And the coaster is kind of, for lack of a better way of putting it, it's draped over the side of the hill. You should look up some pictures. It's really cool looking. I mean, it is almost like a terrain coaster, though people tend to have a specific thing in mind when they call something a terrain coaster, and this isn't quite it, but it kind of does that. It follows the shape of the land very closely. And then, of course, you've got the mountains in the background, which just, I mean, it's a great environment, beautiful environment for that coaster. And it's got a couple inversions, and the cars rotate. The cars actually spin on an axis, so they can turn around forward or backwards, which is very cool. And obviously there's other roller coasters that have done that before. The Guardians of the Galaxy coaster in Epcot does that, so that's not a particularly... I don't know what is with this mouse right here, just fighting me on controls today. But yeah, it's not a completely innovative thing to have your coaster cars rotate, but it looks cool on this one, and it looks like it's gonna be fun. Do I have a plan to do a history series on the Universal parks? Yes. There's so many parks. I would love to do a history series on the Universal parks. The Studios Park in Florida, its history is fairly interesting early on, just because of the race with Disney and the competition over setting up permanent studio space in Central Florida that both Disney and Universal were going for at that time. After that, I mean, it's definitely, the park has evolved and changed in some very interesting ways. I don't know that its history, I mean, it's only a 40-year-old park. It's not like Knott's Berry Farm where you have 100 years of history. It's not even like Disney where Disneyland in Anaheim where you've got 70 years of history. It's a little newer of a park, but the studios in Hollywood are very interesting. I don't think it would be a very long series just because it doesn't really start becoming a theme park until fairly modern day, even though the studio is 100 years old. Most of that time, you don't even get the studio tour until the 1960s, really. So, and there was a studio tour, like a walking tour, back in like the early 1900s when it first opened. But once that was in the silent film era, once they started doing sound film, they kind of had to stop letting people just wander around because people would just talk during their filming, like people are prone to do, and it did not go well, as you can probably imagine. So they closed off the studio, built sound stages, all that kind of stuff, and then it wasn't until decades later that they opened it up to the public again with bus tours. I'm trying to remember. I'm blanking on the name of the van line company that ran those bus tours. But it is the same bus tour company that features in an episode of I Love Lucy when they go to Richard Widmark's house. The weird trivia of how theme parks connect to I Love Lucy. That is in my head. Any suggestions for ride types? If y'all see something that y'all want, by the way, just holler and I'll... Or if you just want me to name a character something goofy. Yeah, I do think that a history of the Universal, especially the Hollywood studios, would be pretty interesting. It's one of those things where doing those history series on parks, you have to kind of balance what's available history-wise. So somewhere like Holiday World is really fascinating to me just as a park. I find that park really interesting. It's very... Sorry, didn't mean to bonk the mic there. It's a very weird park and very unique, and it has a fairly deep history. But it's also like I've been struggling to find history on it as I've tried to do research to start it. I also have looked into Busch Gardens Tampa, which is a fairly local enough park for me that I could at least look into more local sources of information, which was something that was a challenge for the Knot series because there's tons of history for the Knots stuff. Like it's 100 years old and it's a local institution. It's just that's all in Orange County, California, not, Central Florida. So literally the opposite side of the country to try to get research done for that stuff. The internet obviously makes that easier today, but if it weren't for the Orange County Archives and their visual stuff, especially video and photo documentation of Knott's history, I probably couldn't have done that series. And somewhere like Disneyland obviously is so popular and such a cultural institution that it has a ton of documentation. Somewhere like Busch Gardens Tampa, I've been able to do some decent research on. I found a good amount of information research-wise, but it's just a struggle to find visual stuff, especially from the early days. It's a lot of aerial photography and stuff like that, and I'm sure there are local sources. I know at least one of their construction leads, I think, is who it is. But he runs a Busch Gardens history website. If I remember the URL, I'd tell you. Unfortunately, I can't remember it off the top. It might just be BGT History. And I know he's got a good bit of stuff. So it's kind of on my to-do list to reach out to him and see how feasible it would be. But it's just the lift on those history series are pretty deep, pretty heavy. But they're fun. The result is always really cool. It's a lot of work. and not a super ton of gain, really. Let's see if this... I hope this thing will clear back. I mean, it should clear back to here. What about a couple of older defunct parks and why they failed in comparison to ones that survived? That's actually not a bad idea. On the one hand, there are... It's not... It depends on the park and how well the documentation exists for it. Because it's one thing to write, hours long script, a couple hours of script to tell the story of the history of a park. That's not too hard. As long as the information's out there and you do good fact checking and you try to find primary sources and just standard historian stuff. It's not so bad. Finding visual, the problem is YouTube is a visual medium, and finding visual, whether it's video or photographic history of some of these places, especially when you're talking about individual rides, it can be a bit of a challenge. It's not to say it's not doable, because it totally is. But that is a consideration that prevents me from doing a lot of older parks that would be very cool to see, to dive into the history of. Just like personally, I would find it interesting, and if it makes a good video, so be it. But really, I'd be doing it as much for my own edification as anything else. That it's not impossible, but a lot of that stuff hasn't been digitized, especially like advertisements, right? Like advertisements are great for showing off new rides, because that's what they want to do. Like their entire point of the ad is to show you the new ride. So old TV ads from the 70s for Knott's were just a gold mine for showing off things like Wacky Soapbox Racers, for example. An amazing resource. Unfortunately, for a lot of, especially regional parks, that stuff just doesn't exist. I mean, the fact that it exists for Knott's is kind of lucky. There's a ton of stuff because of where it's located. It's in Southern California. A lot of people had the technology even early on in the 70s to record those kinds of things, in kind of more for some of those Midwestern parks, for example. You don't get a lot of that stuff just because people didn't have VCRs yet. Like it was a new, novel, and very expensive technology, and people just nobody thought, hey, let's record this program and keep the advertisements for 50 years. Somebody might want to see it. And it seems kind of insane now of like, what do you mean there's no documentation of these things? But that's just kind of the nature of, I'm going to set this at 750 to just as a guess. But that's just kind of the nature of a lot of those parks, is there's just not a lot of historic documentation. And then the other thing is Florida Memory, which is the state archives here in Florida. They are not good about sharing their resources, unfortunately. And they're the state library, and they have all of the old photography from a lot of these old parks, even like nature parks and stuff. Places like Cypress Gardens, like you could do Legoland, the history of Legoland and Cypress Gardens, and do a short 3 or 4 video series on it. It'd be really cool. I'd love to do that. Getting that historic stuff from Florida Memory, they charge you money for it, unlike most places, especially with the California stuff where it's all freely available online through university libraries and stuff like that. And, you know, as long as you attribute it to the source, which of course, you know, it's just best practices anyway, but there's just not, they make it harder than it needs to be. It's just, it's frustrating. I'll just put it that way. If you have cool stories you find on research that you won't be able to use on videos, it'd be fun to hear about them here on streams. So actually, I have historically been posting those kinds of stories over on the Patreon. And it's one of those things is when I'm active in research, obviously there's more of that. So there hasn't been a ton of those over there lately. But that's usually where stuff like that lives, is on the Patreon. If there was a, if there was a way to share those kinds of things on stream easily, that might be something to think about going forward. The problem with it is you're talking about trying to play a video game and talk at the same time, which I'm already trying to do and not doing a great job on. And then try to remember historical data on top of it. And like basically at that point, I'm just going to have a pile of notes to read off of. And those would be fairly niche. History streams would be fairly niche. But it might be worth doing sometime. Maybe if there's just a park that I'm like, I want to tell this story, and it's best told talking, or maybe even getting guests on. That would be something that would be interesting if there were people affiliated with some of those parks in an historic sense that don't exist anymore. One park that I would be very much interested in exploring the history of more. It's not even really a theme park. It was a kind of more traditional amusement park, was a Riverside Park in Chicago. There's a bit about it on the Block Breaks video on the channel. So if you're interested in a little bit of Riverside history, check out that Block Breaks video I did. That park's interesting just because it was a cultural institution in Chicago for, like something like 60, 70 years. Like it was a fairly long-lived park. Beautiful location, literally on the river, hence it's called Riverside. That kind of makes sense, right? And it was, one of the guys that ran it was an engineer. Like the son that inherited it had gone to engineering school, and he's basically the one that invented block brakes on roller coasters. So he's the way that this system here works, where we've got these little brakes that prevent the train from entering the next zone while one train is in the previous zone, or subsequent zone, I should say. I'm trying to describe how it works while also sitting here playing this game. Anyway, that's a system that started in railways for keeping them safe, keeping two trains off the same segment of track, so you didn't have trains running into each other, because that was a bit of a problem. I mean, or even just a breakdown. A train breaks down and then another one comes up behind it at full head of steam, and yeah. So from safety perspective, that's what was done to fix that on train tracks, and he adapted that to roller coasters because they kept having accidents on their roller coasters at the park, and he was genuinely concerned about safety, which a lot of parks at the time just weren't. They would just close a ride, reopen it 6 months later under a new name with it. We totally fixed it. It's totally safe now, and they'd literally done nothing to it except for, clean up the mess from the last accident. But do we want to name a coaster Hollywood Drift on here? Yeah, we can. I mean, we have to build one first. Which, we've only got 2 coaster types. Oh wow, we've got a bunch of stuff that's opened up in here that I've been neglecting. Let's build a haunted house. Speaking of haunted houses, Ozzy. So Ozzy Osbourne's coming to Halloween Horror Nights in Orlando as a house. Don't know if anybody's heard. For those in the future or who just aren't aware right now, that news has leaked like 3-4 times already, and still not confirmed by Universal. They still haven't made the official announcement. But some advertisements on Spotify and I think SoundCloud or maybe Pandora, something like that. Just another old classic. Used to be Publix. Publix would leak back in the day when Publix sold tickets to Halloween Horror Nights. You'd have days where before gosh, I'm trying to remember what year it was when they stopped doing that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. They used to sell Halloween Horror Nights tickets at Publix, and every year it seemed like, it wasn't literally every year, but a lot of years, they would put up ads for the Halloween Horror Nights tickets that they were about to start selling, and invariably there'd be some IP that hadn't been announced. I think one of them was Friday the 13th one year. There's come see Jason at Halloween Horror Nights, and Universal hadn't even announced it yet. And so they've had that happen multiple times this year with the Aussie house, which is just hilariously funny to me because they've literally announced multiple other houses since that they could have done. So we can call this, I don't know what there was going to be named after what was the name of his compilation album? Like it was a greatest hits album from a few years ago. Supposedly that's what the name of the house is going to be. Again, part of what happened in the leaks. Let's see, we're at 332 out of 500, and we're not even to the end of year 1. We can just let it go turbo. But yeah, Halloween Horror Nights this year just not. It's the first year in a very long time that I'm not really interested, which is sad to me. But I suppose they're trying to attract a different type of. It's not that everything about it seems bad. It's just there's not a lot of the IPs I find particularly interesting this year. The originals aren't grabbing me. It's supposed to be an anniversary year because it's a year that ends in 5 or 0, and they tend to do anniversary stuff where they bring back. They bring back stuff from the past, and the stuff they're bringing back is only in the scare zones and doesn't seem particularly interesting. So, but they'll at least have Ozzy Osbourne. Does the game have the ability to create a pavilion like where a band would play? And could you build it? Unfortunately, there's not really anything like that in this game. Oh, I don't have enough cash. It's I'm trying to think of if there's anything even remotely close to that. There's not really an entertainment segment to the game. There are entertainers that we can hire, but they're just like mascot costume people. They're not and they're not particularly useful. They raise guest happiness. Here we can hire a few of them. We got a panda. And this one's set up to just hire random ones. So that's a cowboy, I think. Let's see. There's an elephant. Yes, I purposely said elephant wrong. There's a tiger. a Roman centurion. But yeah, unfortunately, there's not a there's no like stage set up for like a band or musicians or anything like that. There is something in... I never hired a mechanic. Oops. There, I'm trying to think. In Planet Coaster, there are like animatronic bands that you can set up. There's the one with like pirates, I know, and I'm trying to remember. I want to say there's another one, like a fairy tale one or something. Maybe that's just like an organ, like a band organ that I'm thinking of. And that is kind of like a little stage with animatronic. Oh, there's in one of the expansions, the like World's Fair expansion, that's kind of doing Victorian Chicago World's Fair era kind of aesthetic. It's got a Disney Dapper Dan's style barbershop quartet that you can set up. But again, they're animatronic, which is weird. But I kind of get with the way the hiring and employees work in the game, why they chose to do it that way. But it's a little bit odd, because you're like, here, let me hire these people walking around in mascot costumes, and then instead of hiring an actual barbershop quartet, we're going to set up some animatronic robots to sing. It's kind of fun. But one of the things that I did want to... that did happen, so we had one opening. We had a soft opening, not official yet, for Hollywood Drift. We've had 2 closings announced for major roller coasters here in the southeast. Air Force One, which featured in the RMC video that I did about what was so special about RMC and why they were so hot at the time as a coaster manufacturer. One of their coasters is closing at a Fun Spot location in Atlanta. There's talk that it might get preserved and moved to another park, but we'll see. And then Kumba at Busch Gardens, since we were talking about Busch Gardens Tampa. Kumba's closing, which I want to be sad about. The 12-year-old in me wants to be sad about Kumba closing, but the 30-something that wrote it a couple years ago isn't. Because the last time I wrote it, it tried to murder me and gave me a throbbing headache for the rest of the day. So if they weren't going to retrack it, I'm not too sad to see it go. It will be interesting to see what they replace it with, since they're very heavily leaning into that. The park announced that they're going to do it as a Kumba's Revenge is what it's going to replace it. And we'll see what that actually shapes up to look like. It could be interesting. They've some guest surveys they've sent out would suggest it's going to be tallest coaster in Florida, probably fastest coaster in Florida. Going to have some theming elements around it. It'll be interesting to see what they do with it. I don't know that I trust United Parks to do anything good with it, given how that company's been run lately, but I'll hold out hope before judgment. Sounds like the cost-cutting measures you'd see in parks today with the animatronic bands. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm pretty sure that if Disney could get away with firing the Dapper Dans and replacing them with animatronic versions, they probably would. I don't think the Disney fans would let them do that. I think they would throw a fit, but you're not wrong that does seem to be the trend line among some of the bigger parks. But also, there are just we did a video about it. The You were about to say you thought SeaWorld and Busch Gardens were in trouble. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think animals are an evergreen an evergreen attraction, and as such, I think that as long as they maintain their AZA accreditation and they don't turn Marine World, where they've got animals literally suffering, I think that they'll probably survive, but it is one of those not the healthiest looking parks at the moment, but they're starting to invest. I think, especially with SeaWorld, Orlando. I think Epic Universe opening up across the street, like literally across the street, practically, kind of lit a fire under them to recognize they can't just rest on, hey, we built a new coaster. Which is why they're building that. I'm blanking on the name of it. But it's an underwater. It's almost kind of got an Omnimover type, but it's suspended from above. So it's almost like Horizons, actually. And it's shaped like little submersible vehicles, for lack of a better way of describing them, little bubble cars almost. And it's supposed to be a dark ride that's going to take you through underwater environments. I'm sure we'll get some kind of bioluminescent phosphorescent paint kind of, or not phosphorescent probably, with fluorescent. That's the word I'm looking for. Jeez. Words is hard. But yeah, some fluorescent paint and blacklight kind of stuff. I want to say they did a jellyfish themed one in San Antonio, was it? Or is it San Diego? I can never keep them straight. But at another SeaWorld park that kind of seems like maybe that's what they're going for. But the scale of the show building for that one they're building in Orlando is massive, and it's taking over a plot that used to be used for their Howl-O-Scream houses, a warehouse area that was used for their Howl-O-Scream houses. So we'll see. I'm interested anytime there's a new dark ride going up at a theme park, but especially Orlando parks. I'm always excited to see new dark rides. That can only mean good things for the industry. But it's United Parks. How much money are they going to spend? Is it going to be quality? That's all definitely reasonable to question, given the current state of those parks. Honestly, the fact that Busch Gardens has had 2 restaurant closures in the last year over food safety violations, that's kind of more where I'm worried about them. I think for as much as it's popular to, and I also do it, so it's valid to crap on Hillpath Capital and the private equity firm management style that's going on over there. I do worry that operations is where, especially Busch Gardens, between their ride operations, which tend to be very slow. Their maintenance doesn't seem to be great. Cheetah Hunt I saw was down again, and that ride's, I think, operated. That is a premier coaster in their park that is operated, I think, for maybe 3 months out of the last year. Like, it's been down just a ton. Those kinds of things. Just that all is never good. Never good to see a park, especially a fairly regional one, because let's be honest, no one's booking a flight from, well, not no one, but the vast majority of people who are showing up to Florida theme parks aren't from out of state, aren't coming to go to Busch Gardens Tampa. They might add it to their trip, but that's not the reason they're coming. They're coming to go to Disney. Really, with as expensive as their food is and it's rotten. Yeah, well, so the first one was kind of funny. Sorry, I keep bonking this microphone. The first one was kind of funny. The employee was found by the food investigator. So you'd think, like, you'd walk through and be like, hey guys, the food inspector here is here, be on your best behavior. The person that wrote up the report literally found an employee elbow deep in some coleslaw without a glove on, which got them an immediate shutdown, as you would expect. So yeah, that's kind of food safety 101 right there. That you could at least chalk up to a training issue, but there was also, I guess, some rodent droppings and some bug parts or whatever. The standard, just not cleaning the kitchen well. Which, if you've ever worked in fast food, it is what it is. But you would think a theme park would have higher standards than that. But it is what it is. It's tough. It's tough when you're dealing with people who, are working minimum wage and don't necessarily want to be working that minimum wage job. It can be a challenge to keep things to a high standard. I get it. But yeah, it was funny when the story broke because it was just so ridiculous. But it's also not something, from a PR perspective, as a park, it's not something you want happening. So that was bad enough. And then that's also one of those things where it happens, you do your best to make amends, and you try to improve your reputation. The fact that it happened again, and I think this time it was just for a cleanliness thing. I didn't read the full report like I did that first one, just because that first one I had to read the full report because I saw the thing about the dude with his arm in the coleslaw, and you laugh. You can't help but laugh. It's ridiculous. It's still funny. A year later, it's funny. But I had to see that one firsthand. This most recent one, I just saw kind of the summary of the findings, and it was just like, again, the kind of standard. There's a dead roach visible here. There's some rodent droppings visible there. Like, just not great cleanliness, and unsurprising that gets you shut down. Does Disney or Universal have landing area to continue to expand for years? Yeah. Yeah. To use the worn out Walt Disney quote about Florida. In Florida, we have the benefit of space, and of course, over the last, more than a decade at this point, but with the asterisk of, I might give you Galaxy's Edge as something where they didn't, it wasn't purely destructive, and they added more than they took out. Most of the changes in the Florida parks for Disney have been destructive rather than additive. Not pure expansion. They've been pulling stuff out, and obviously stuff like Rivers of America closing to make way for Piston Peak. Yes, they're going to expand Magic Kingdom. The Villain's Land will be on supposedly new ground that wasn't developed before, but we'll see if that even gets built. I will always refer back to the Play Pavilion, which was announced in 2017 and still to this day hasn't been made and has, for all intents and purposes, been confirmed canceled. Universal, on the other hand, the Studios park is pretty well landlocked. There's got some backstage areas they could clear out, but there are two major highways that abut that park, and they've already filled in as much space as they can with backstage areas like storage spaces and the sprung tents that they use for Halloween Horror Nights. So I don't think we'll see a lot of expansion there. I mean, they already demolished Jaws and put in Diagon Alley, so there's not a ton more they can add over in that side. And beyond that area is all employee. That's where Universal Creative has their headquarters. That's where the park administration have their headquarters. There's tons of cast area back there. So all of that backside behind that side of the park isn't expandable. And then literally right next door, you have all the studio, the sound stages. So they could demolish some sound stages, but they still film wrestling in some of those. They still put Halloween Horror Nights houses in those. So there's not a lot of incentive to destroy that. Islands has, I think there is still a little bit of pad left. They're currently demolishing Lost Continent. We chatted a bit about that on the last stream. There's a bit of space that they could expand into back there. We'll see if they actually do it, like how much they use of it, because they've not announced any plans as far as that goes yet. Obviously they're going to put something there. We just don't know what. Here, since I want to do this before I forget and before we we'll actually call it the full name. Oh, doesn't fit. We'll just abbreviate. So, yeah, Universal Studios Orlando doesn't have a ton of expansion space. Islands of Adventure has a little bit of expansion space left. I think there is one pad over by Jurassic on one side that could also be used, but I don't remember if they ever developed that or not. Epic Universe, the newest park, has a ton of space to build into. They purposely built that park with some major expansion areas that could not double, because just the amount of backstage that you have to have for an attraction. So not quite double the size of the park, but definitely add another 50% amount of e-ticket level attractions. They've already started on a Harry Potter expansion. Looks like that's going to be a broom riding attraction. The speculation is an indoor coaster. It's definitely going to be a ride. That's been clear from the permitting. There is just this week there was news that broke on the permitting for the expansion, the first Dark Universe expansion, so in the horror side of the park. And it's definitely going to be a ride. The speculation was always a show, because the concept art from before the park even opened showed a nighttime show. And there was always speculation that that's what would go into the space there, but it looks like, because there's a ride maintenance bay attached to part of the construction permitting, looks like that's going to be another ride in that area. My personal hope for that has always been a Creature from the Black Lagoon themed ride, water, like a boat ride. Think something like the old Jaws ride at Universal Studios, but it's the creature from the Black Lagoon after us. And something kind of mixed with a bit of the humor of the Jungle Cruise. I think that could be a 10 out of 10. Like, add a little bit of goofiness, a little bit of levity to that side of the park, so it's not too overly serious. But then also make it a little bit spooky and a little surprising, and a little bit of low impact thrills. So, because I mean that side of the park has a spinning roller coaster, which isn't super intense, but man, if you're a particularly prone to nausea type person, I don't imagine that that's something you're going to be volunteering to ride when your family wants to ride it. And then they've got Monsters Unchained, which is an incredible ride, but it is, the Kuka arm. It does it doesn't flip you, it doesn't go upside down, but it does wiggle you about in a exuberant manner. So I can't imagine that they would want to put in another high impact thrill in that part of the park. I think they would be better served. I mean, they can do whatever they want, it's their park, but I would imagine that they're probably going to want something that is a bit more all ages, is a bit more not necessarily family, because they clearly are all in on, no, this is Spookyville. This is Spookyville, USA. You come to Spookyville to be spooked. They're heavy in on that, and I love it. But I think they also kind of recognize that it's not as open and inviting as the Harry Potter area, as the Nintendo area, and as How to Train Your Dragon, all of which are a bit more all ages. There's still some size and age restrictions, but less severe than the stuff over in Dark Universe. So I'd be interested to see what that's going to be. Like I said, I'm hoping for a water boat tour ride with Creature from the Black Lagoon, but could be a Dracula ride, could be I saw some speculation on a Bride of Frankenstein coaster, which does not sound particularly interesting to me, but I mean, obviously if they did something really cool with it, I'd be super stoked. So I'm more intrigued by the idea than the speculation. Like, I'm more interested in what actually goes in. Dang, that area is huge already. Yeah, it is. That park is very big. It's not Epcot big, and it's not even Animal Kingdom big, but though actually I think it is walkable space comparable with Animal Kingdom. The difference being that Animal Kingdom, of course, has all those animal habitats and the safari ride, which is a huge amount of space. Epic is a big park. And it's funny because people complain about there not being enough to do there. And, well, I say people complain. The internet. So, dead internet theory being a reality. Bots complain. Disney paid for bots complain. Or Disney influencers complain. That there's not enough to do in that park. And, I mean, I strongly disagree. I think you could spend a day in Burke alone. Like, that area between the shows and the rides already has quite a bit to do, and also has some cool restaurants and whatnot. And then just the Celestial Park has some amazing restaurants in it. I will grant that there is more shopping and restaurant and bar space in that park than there is rides. There are also multiple shows, and I know some people just skip shows outright, and that's kind of part of the problem. But personally, I had plenty to do in that park. Did not struggle to find something to do at any given time in that park, and thoroughly enjoyed it. But if all you want to do is ride roller coasters, if your standard is Six Flags, then yeah, I guess there's not enough rides in Epic Universe. But they've got a ton of space. There's a expansion pad. I want to say it was like 9 or 10 acres worth of expansion pad. That could be me misremembering, so don't quote me on that. But a fairly large expansion pad for Nintendo. There's a pretty sizable expansion pad like we've been talking about for Dark Universe or Darkmoor. There's a, like I said, they're already working on the Harry Potter expansion pad for that park to bring in an e-ticket ride there. Like, that park is pretty big, and it's only getting bigger, and it'll be interesting to see how it develops. I'm as fascinated as it's been to watch that park get built, and I have a video in the works on the nature of that park and what its construction process was like. I don't want to spoil too much about what that video is going to be, but it's one that I've been working on for a few months now, and I have been editing heavily to try to keep it to a more reasonable length, but it's been a very fun video to write and work on. That park, as cool as it is to look at how it got built and what the process was like, it's going to be insane in 10 years. I'm really, really excited to see what that park evolves into, what it becomes. If they did a creature ride, probably wouldn't be hard to make it look like Florida Nature Parks it was filmed on. Yeah, totally. I mean, the nature of Creature from the Black Lagoon, one of the sequels was filmed at a marine land here in Florida. Like, it can, but presuming you're actually supposed to be going into the Black Lagoon and actively looking for the creature, which would presumably be the theme of the ride. Yeah, like just a bunch of philodendrons and a bunch of elephant ears, and you could even put some fake cypress trees in there. Like, you could make it look very close to some of the stuff that was shot in the original movie. I personally would love to see a This Island Earth something come to that area, just because the Metaluna mutant is, to me, the unsung original Universal monster. I know most people know that movie from the MST3K, the movie. But as far as bad, cheesy 1950s sci-fi goes, man, it's so good. Like, it's such a goofy, fun movie. If you haven't watched it in a while, I highly recommend it. It's just so entertaining. I mean, it's awful. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, it's not a good movie, but compared to a lot of stuff that comes out today, it's not that bad. But yeah, it's a fun one, and I'd love to see them go full weird and put something like that in the Dark Universe area. But obviously they're leaning more into that kind of timeless, I guess is the best way to put it, because it's kind of modern, but it's kind of still got a lot of that Victorian Gothic thing that Frankenstein has. It's a very interesting, like, unlike Disney, who tied themselves with Galaxy's Edge to a very firm timeline and made it very specific of what that Star Wars zone is, and there's been a lot of talk, obviously, about how well that decision was received. I find the choices made around Dark Universe very interesting, because it's full of very old, very kind of aged looking stuff, very, again, leaning into that Victorian Gothic vibe, and then yet it's also got very modern stuff. Like, part of the thing that I found really compelling about Monsters Unchained is just how modern a lot of the tech on the ride is designed to feel, and almost, again, kind of sci-fi-ish, which when you think about it, of course, like, Frankenstein's a sci-fi story, at least the original version. I mean, it was Victorian sci-fi, but it's, it's science fiction. It's reanimating the dead using electricity back when they didn't understand how electricity worked. Electricity was a new thing. I don't know how true the story is, but the apocryphal story has always been that Mary Shelley had seen or heard of some doctor, might have been Galvani, some doctor applying electricity to a deceased frog's leg and it making the muscle twitch, and then when that kind of inspired her to say, well, if you could do that with a leg, with muscle tissue, why can't you do it with the whole body? And the story of Frankenstein evolves out of that kind of thought experiment. But I would I find it very interesting how they've chosen to put that in a very ambiguous time frame for that ride, and just that area in general. It's interesting. Some very clever choices, but also I'm curious how it ages. You want Tom Servo as a hidden Mickey on the Creature from the Black Lagoon ride. I mean, that would be kind of fun. Or were you talking about on the This Island Earth Metaluna Mutant? Because I'd be interested in that too. That'd be pretty fun. I'm not sure where you like what you do, or what, are we being abducted? That maybe, I don't know. I don't know how you work it into that way. I don't think the general public would go for a This Island Earth ride. I don't think it would get as much interest as it would from people like me who are a bit weirder in their taste when it comes to horror movies. This Island Earth, yeah, like, yeah, so there was a Metaluna Mutant in the old Monsters Cafe. Hey, look, we won. There was a Metaluna Mutant in the old Monsters Cafe in Universal Studios, Florida. And then when that closed to become Minions Cafe, a lot of those figures got saved. The three off the top that rotated, that were the Wolfman, was Creature from the Black Lagoon one of them? Might have been Frankenstein, and Mummy, I think, was one of them. I honestly can't remember. Wow, it's amazing how just a few years and you forget. They had those sitting out back in Dark Universe in a backstage area for, they might still be back there for all I know, but they had them sitting back there while the park was under construction, and kind of curious to see what they're going to do with those things. But anyway, they had a Metaluna Mutant inside, and I want to say it was a screen-used costume or something like that. And that, of course, disappeared when they closed that location, when they closed Monsters Cafe. And it showed up in one of the Dead Coconut Clubs. I can't remember which. I don't think it was the Mardi Gras. I think it was the Halloween Horror Nights one. So there's the Red Coconut Club in City Walk in Orlando, and they do Mardi Gras and Halloween Horror Nights overlays for it every year. And it they had the Metaluna Mutant in there for one of them just a couple years ago. It wasn't that long. Gosh, I wish I remember which one it was. And I want to say it was like alien themed. They're doing another alien abduction themed one this year for Halloween Horror Nights, which is part of the reason why I'm struggling to remember what it was for and when it was for, because I think I'm confusing it with some of the stuff they've shown for that, which hasn't been much, to be fair. But I'm very excited for that for this year. Honestly, more excited for that than for the actual Halloween Horror Nights event, just because I'm hoping that the Metal Looney Mutant shows back up, because that's just a very deep part of Universal history. And like, yeah, it's a cheesy 50s sci-fi movie. It's not, it's not Citizen Kane for sure, but but I love it. It's goofy and stupid, and I love it. Speaking of stupid things, I almost didn't put this in. I did put a little list together of things to chat about. And I almost didn't put this in the list just because I didn't want to be mean. But I can't resist. So Disney released a clothing line designed by Imagineering. And it's hard not to laugh at, because it looks... First off, it looks like the most cliched... cliched, this is totally what Gen Z is into clothing. Like, it's just all really baggy, pseudo 90s, but not really 90s, like just vaguely 90s-esque, but like muted colors, right? So it's like, it's not the actual 90s, like bright, loud patterns, bright, loud colors. It's all like muted grays and earth tones. At least the stuff that they showed, that I saw from the promo images. But it's like, it just looks real goofy. Not like the character Goofy. That would actually be way cooler. But just looks kind of silly, and like it was designed by a person in their 50s that is trying to be hip and cool. And the fact that Zach Ridley, who is in his 50s and was trying to look hip and cool, appeared in the ads for the clothes, was kind of telling. But yeah, just one of those. It seems like it's so out of touch. People complain that current crop at Imagineering doesn't know how to build rides, doesn't know how to do the Disney brand thing, and then they're out coming with, no, but we know how to do fashion. We're going to do high fashion. It's like, okay. I don't know. Don't know that you quite understood what people were being critical about, but definitely a choice. I will say they did some, they also had some merch based around, for D23 this year, that was based around the old Imagineer This shorts that they would show on the Disney Channel that would be behind the scenes of rides. I mean, I can 100% blame a significant portion of my interest in theme parks in watching those as a kid. So I'm extremely biased here, I will gladly admit, but they did have a line of clothes for that didn't look too terrible. I mean, it's just some purple and yellow t-shirts with some logos on them. It's not like a whole trendy high-end fashion brand like the and the name also was part of what got me, because it's Yen Sid, right? And any Kingdom Hearts fans will know Yin Sid as the name of the wizard from the Sorcerer's Apprentice section of Fantasia, which of course is Disney backwards, but they took the vowels out. They gave it the Tumblr treatment, took the vowels out. So it's, and they put a period. I can't remember if they put, I think they put a period at the beginning of it. So it's period Y NSD. It's just, it just looks ridiculous. It's just, it seems like such a try-hard thing, and like I don't understand why. I don't understand why. I think it's my biggest problem. I don't understand who thought this was a good idea. I don't understand who thought that this was what you want to, how you want to advertise your business, your does like you're supposed to be the premier ride design, creative, immersive attraction group. Like that's your brand, not we can do the Gap but better. We're going to compete with Abercrombie and Fitch or whatever. But not even then, like, because it's being Disney, like I would presume they're going to try for a higher tier, right? Like they're not going for kind of. Well, I guess I didn't see where they were going to be selling this stuff, so maybe they are aiming for Target as opposed to. Sorry, pardon the pun there, but maybe they're aiming for selling it at Target and not, Nordstrom or whatever. Is Nordstrom a high-end thing? I don't know. I'm not into luxury stuff, if you couldn't tell. All I can think of is that meme, "How do you do, fellow kids?" Yeah, it definitely. If you look at the image, I wish I could. I'm going to have to reassess my setup here. I might need to have access to a second monitor. I might need to put in a second monitor for the next stream so I can just pull things up and bring them over into the window so we can look at things when I'm talking about them, just so we can have a good laugh together. Because, it's it is a bunch of 20-something attractive models hanging out in their Yinsid clothes, and then there is 50-something Zach Ridley with his coiffed hair and gray coiffed hair, and he's just sitting there trying to be cool as part of it, and it just, I mean, the Disney influencer types were all over, "Oh, this looks so cool, oh, this looks so good," and I was just like, okay, yeah, sure. Just, oh man, it looks so ridiculous to me. It's just, maybe I'm old. Maybe that's it. Maybe I'm just old and out of touch, and this is what is hip and trendy now, is baggy clothes on old people. But man, it just, oof. It was pretty cringe, as the kids say. Kids don't even say cringe anymore, I don't think. I think they've got new words that we don't even know yet. By the time it reaches somebody my age, that it's not cool and trendy anymore. But yeah, just of all the goofiest. Again, a line just based on goofy would probably have been less silly than that was. So this is the first time, I should point out, since we're actually never talked about it here. Slow it down a little bit. This objective that we have in the upper right hand corner is for park value, and park value is something we haven't really had. We've all of our previous objectives have been focused around getting a certain number of guests by a certain time period, and this is the first objective we've had related to something different, and it is park value. Park value is determined by the value of the rides that you build, and the happiness of your guests factors into it, and the age of the rides, and your stalls, the amount of stalls you have open is part of it. Anyway, we can see it right here. So this has to get to 200K, and we're at 118, 19, somewhere around in there. And we have 2 more years, because we're almost to the end of year 1, because I've been fast forwarding. We have 2 more years to get there. There is a trick that you can do. There's a way to... It's not... I wouldn't call it a glitch per se. Call it something more... Oops. This is just... Again, sorry, mouse is fighting me today. I should stop talking bad about Disney stuff. The mouse keeps fighting me. But I'm Tish. There is an exploit that you can do that... I don't like where that went. We're not putting that there. There's an exploit that allows you to do some kind of ridiculous things. We could basically get that 200K with a single piece of track, of roller coaster track. The way you do it is you build a whole roller coaster, you open it and you test it so that it gets the value calculated into your park, so it registers it as your park has a ride of that value. And then you turn around and delete the entire ride, all except for one piece of track. And then you just rinse and repeat. And whatever that full value of that item was, or that ride was beforehand, now becomes the value of that one track. Like that one piece of track retains the value of that whole ride of what it was when it was its full size. I may have misspoken at some point in there because I'm trying to do something and saying all this off the cuff. So if I got any of that wrong, sorry. But it's something akin to what I said. And yeah, it allows you to just exploit the park value to create way more value, like just hundreds of thousands of, again, dollars, pounds, whatever your currency is set to, in a single piece of track, which is kind of ridiculous and definitely not how the game was intended to be played. But again, we're not doing... This is a casual, and we're not really going to do exploits. Maybe if we just want to buzz through a bunch of scenarios at some point in the future, might show off some of the sillier tricks, or might revisit some ones that we've done just to show off some stuff if anybody's really interested in that. But that is how you can beat this scenario very quickly and very easily. Especially if now we have to do it by the end of year 3, so doing it now, there would be depreciation on all of those things, so it's not really worth doing right now. But it's something that if you did it all right towards the middle of year 3, you could basically fast forward all the way to the end of this scenario and then just build some stuff, and it would automatically win you the thing for all intents and purposes, which is, again, it's a bit cheesy, it's a bit gimmicky, not what we're doing here, but it is fun to see how some of the weird ways this game is kind of broken and kind of allows you to do some silly stuff. I was trying to create a loop here. so that we have a little bit. We're just going to build a lot of this stuff on water. This park is very hilly, as you can see. You can spend a significant amount of money just lowering hills and flattening stuff to build on kind of easier spaces, make places to build. But there's also just all this big flat water out here in the middle, which is a little bit more expensive to build on, but we'll still make it work. And again, I'm just pretty much leaving it in fast forward because we need to get this up another 75K, and we still have almost 2 full years, so it's gonna be a while. This is one of the slower early scenarios. I presume because Chris Sawyer, the kind of main creative, he didn't do the entire game by himself. There is kind of a myth of that, but he was kind of the main not programmer, but like designer for the game. May have been the main programmer. I thought somebody else also did programming on it. I can't remember. But anyway, I think the intent here was to get you used to seeing how, not just seeing park value, but seeing how it changed over time. Kind of a bit of a more tutorial-y kind of park. Tutorial-y, that's not even really a word. Tutorial-esque. Tutorial-ish. But we'll get a few stalls going. I mean, we've got research going crazy, so, and everything's cranked up price-wise. I should build 10 bathrooms. That's what I should do. I don't know how many I've actually got. I think I've only got the one. One bathroom for an entire park filled with 700 people. That can only be a good thing. Just looked up the clothes. Thanks for the laugh. Yeah. I mean, okay. Listen, I'm not the person to come to for fashion. I've never been a fashion conscious or fashion forward person. What's going on here? Man, the mouse is just losing its mind today. It just literally like froze and was sitting there stuck going to the bottom. I've never been the most fashion forward, fashion conscious kind of person, so don't come to me for fashion advice. And me mocking or finding something to be ridiculous when it comes to fashion is just kind of par for the course. Like, it's not. I'm not known for being into fashion or really impressed by stuff. So my criticisms should be taken with a grain of salt. However, I do find it hilariously ridiculous that a 50-something-year-old man, and I could be slandering him, he might only be in his late 40s, but just the fact that he's an older gentleman mixed in with these clearly kids, and the clothes again look kind of like what a middle-aged person would think that the young kids are into these days. Like, it looks like what Billie Eilish was wearing. Oh man, this is about to be the most damning statement on that line ever. But it looks like what Billie Eilish was wearing 10 years ago. So, like, if this is what your hip new fashion, that your great designers, the incredible, amazing, just forward thinking, the imminent design house that is Walt Disney Imagineering. And they come up with something that looks like something a pop star was wearing a decade ago. Just kind of feels a bit silly, but that's just my personal opinion. Your mileage may vary. Am I still charging for the bathrooms? Oh, yes. We are always charging for the turlet. If it isn't worth 30 cents for them to go, they don't have to go that bad, is my opinion. Really, it's just, it is a bit of nickel and diming. But it's mostly because there is a running cost with those bathrooms, and because I wanted to put 10 in, because if I remember correctly, 10 is the minimum number that's required to get the best bathrooms award, which is a real thing in this game. And so I was trying to see if we could trigger the best bathrooms award. Let's see, we don't want to risk damaging this. Yeah, there we go. And we're almost to the end of year 2. So we are pretty far behind on where we need to be, so we're probably going to need to turn the speed down. What color should we... Yeah, it's going to be bright pink. And the ride vehicle is going to be pastel pink. Because why not? That looks ridiculous. It's very Barbie. The Barbie launched freefall. Oop, that's not where I wanted that to go. Okay, am I just struggling to hit it? Yeah, that's what's happening. There we go. Eventually I'll get this path actually connected to a bed of path and actually have the ride be usable. So yeah, there are awards. I think I mentioned them last time. For different things, having good food in your park, having a clean park. Ah, there we are. Best Park Bathrooms Award, the Golden Turlet. We won, y'all. We won, chat. We won the Golden Turlet Award. I just love that they included that in the game. Like, why? Of all things to award you for, have 10 bathrooms in your park. That qualifies you for having the best bathrooms. Have there been many more updates from Universal about Lost Continent? Where the timeline and what will go there? Not that I've seen. I mean, not officially. No, there's been nothing from official channels on that as of today. Obviously, that could change tomorrow. They did film something over there a while back with some park executive. I don't know who it was. And that's never been released as far as I'm aware. So that definitely has a vibe of something that was filmed to promote the replacement, whatever it is, once the announcement for that goes live. Like, hey, we know you loved Lost Continent, and here's something that's being preserved from it, or here's something that's going to be connected to it, and here's what we're planning on putting in. But as it stands, there's not any official word on what's going in there. The speculation has been, well, actually, okay, so that's official word. Unofficial word is they recently, I'm trying to remember. Hold on. I think it was a permit that was seen, maybe been something else. That was for the ride type, or a ride type that's going to go into the Lost Continent, or that is speculated to go into the Lost Continent thing. Again, it's all this stuff becomes, 12th hand eventually, and is not particularly reliable as far as information. So I treat all of this stuff as, even if it's, here's an actual building permit that's been signed off by the government and it's valid, because any construction has to have that. Oh, Sophia's mad. I just misclicked and hit her. There is an Omnimover style ride. Again, we have a video on Omnimovers, so if you're curious what that ride type is, you can check that video out. Omnimover style ride type that has, I guess, a shooting component to it. So think Omnimover plus shooter, something along the lines of the Buzz Lightyear rides. Those are Omnimovers with laser shooters. And the speculation is it's going to be themed around Pokemon Snap, the video game from the N64. And I think they maybe have done an updated one. I can't remember. I want to say there was a sequel that came out on Switch. It's been, it was one of those things that came and went like a fart in the wind. So I don't remember if it was just an update or if it was like an actual whole new game. Again, it kind of came and went so fast, and I don't even know if it actually, maybe it was announced and never actually released. I genuinely don't remember. But that's the theory as it stands right now, is it'll be a ride themed around Pokemon Snap, and the entire Lost Continent area will be rethemed to a Pokemon region. I don't think there's any strong indicators of what it could be, because Pokemon has done regions from the British Isles to Hawaii, obviously Japan itself, the U.S., or was it U.S.? But France, like they've done all the different generations are kind of loosely, and I'm saying that with heavy scare quotes around it, loosely based on real world geographic regions. So of those kinds of places, Lost Continent could easily transform into basically all of them, or none of them. It could be its own new, unique region. We'll see. I personally am not... I like Pokemon. I'm not like super into it now, but I grew up playing Pokemon. I enjoy Pokemon. I think the game mechanics are fun. I love the heck out of Pokemon Snap. That game is... I still have it on my N64 in the living room. I've played it within the last couple of years. It is it's still a very good game. Like, it's a very enjoyable video game. So I have no complaints about a Pokemon Snap themed ride coming to replace where Sinbad's theater was. But I mean, that's a huge amount of area. When you think they have the Sinbad theater that's going to be demolished, they have the Poseidon's walkthrough theater, show building, and backstage area that is currently being demolished. They have all of that entrance plaza area that was the front of the temple, which was a huge amount of space. Like, I don't think people realize, because there was that giant foot of the collapsed statue. There was all those water geyser There was the plaza area where Mystic Fountain was. There were all the gift shops. They're the like little shop areas, and then you have Mythos on top of all of that. That's a ton of space. That is a absolute insane amount of space to put just Pokemon in. I could totally see them doing that. And again, the usually correct rumor mill, the usually correct rumor mill around it is heavy in on that's what's going in there, and the people who tend to be right about these things seem to be very confident that that's what's happening. So I don't believe it until I hear it directly from the mouth of Universal PR, but I'm also not going to gainsay those people when they are confident in their sources within the system telling them that that's what's going to happen. All that said, that seems like a lot of area for Pokemon to me personally. Okay, that's you have one dark ride, and again, I'm never going to complain about new dark rides in the Orlando area, so that is a win in my opinion. We're going to make this a big brown. Yep, there we go. I'm absolutely 100% on board. If that's what's coming, if it's Pokemon, I think it'd be very cool. It just feels like it's a lot of space to devote to the single IP. And even, okay, it's a lot of space for a single IP, but clearly Harry Potter has supported 3 whole separate areas across the resort. So it's not entirely impossible to put a single IP, and Pokemon's huge. It just feels like you do Pokemon Snap, you do some Magic Band, or not Magic Band, Power Up Band interactions where you have the little gamified wrist strap that they have for the Mario area and the Donkey Kong area. And you engage in that. And there's enough open walking space there to put stuff like that in there. But then you have another big... Do you put a show in? And how do you do a Pokemon show that feels good? Because you could go the Detective Pikachu 3D CG hyper realistic, what these animals would look like if they were real animals route, and then it's just screen based, and I don't know how that works particularly well. You could do what a lot of the Japanese Pokemon parks have done. If you've ever seen any of those, they have sculpted characters around, so they are on model 100%. They look exactly like the video game characters brought into the real world. They're just plastic for all intents and purposes. They may not actually be made of plastic, but that's kind of what they look like. They're not textured to, like a Pikachu should be fuzzy. It's a mouse. But the Pikachus there are smooth and shiny and, again, plasticky. So you could do that. I don't know. Clearly there's a space within the Japanese market for that sells enough to support those Poke Park experiences. I don't know if that sustains in the American, the Orlando in particular, theme park space. I think that's a tougher question. So Zelda rumors have died out or still likely. And you'd be excited to see walk around Team Rocket characters. Agreed. I would love to see Jesse and James's walk around characters. That'd be fun. That's kind of part of your problem. Okay, which region do you pick, and then which team do you go with, right? Because the villain teams change based on region and based on gen. Do you do the Disney, Star Wars, Galaxy's Edge and do your own land with your own Team Rocket, Team Magma, Team whatever villain squad? And at that point, like, does anybody care? Like, do you have regional variants? Like, it Pokemon's such a huge IP, and there's so much variability within it that I'm not saying it can't be done. Obviously, it can be done, and it can be done very well. And if any company's going to do it well today, I trust Universal. After what they've done with all of the IPs in Epic, I mean, just a Pokemon on the level that How to Train Your Dragon is would be insane. A meet and greet with an animatronic like they have with Toothless, but it's or with Blue with the Velociraptor, that kind of stuff, but with a Snorlax. I mean, come on, like, shut up and take my money. Like, it's just they would be printing money. It'd be amazing. I would 100% show up and wade through hours long crowds to see that. So I totally believe they can achieve something very cool and that'll just basically print money for them if they put Pokemon in Lost Continent. That I don't doubt at all. It's a ton of space, and I think that's a lot of creative lift. It's one thing to put in a single Pokemon Snap Darkrai. It's another thing to put in a whole mess of Pokemon stuff for across 2 e-tickets or a e-ticket in a show. As far as the Zelda rumors, I don't know that those were ever valid at all. I think that was more wishful thinking, and I will be the first to admit that I deeply, deeply invested in that wishful thinking. If I had my druthers, it would 100% be do a Zelda-themed land. I think you could do... There's so much space where Lost Continent is, and with the extra area that it looks like they're going to carve out from backstage to go into the new land, you could easily fit a Hyrule Field, a Deku Forest, a Zora Fountain, and a Goron Mountain, a Death Mountain. You could easily fit the kind of 4, and okay, maybe a Gerudo Desert, but that feels like it might be a little bit more challenging to fit all 5 of those spaces in there. But I think you could definitely fit in the way that they've done between Mushroom Kingdom and Donkey Kong over in Epic. I think you could fit that kind of theme within the space over on over in where the Lost Continent footprint is. I had actually somewhere on my Twitter, there's a mock-up of what that would look like that I did back, 2 years ago now, probably, when the rumors first started. So I think it's doable that Zelda could be shoved in there and fit and work and look really freaking cool. I have no expectation that they'll do that. I all of the reliable sources have said Pokemon for a while now. The only sources that ever really seemed to say Zelda were people like me who would just really like to go to a Zelda theme park land. I mean, as excited as you were, Fatalin, for a walk around Team Rocket face character meet and greet, I would absolutely lose my mind for a Twilight Princess style Link, or even Breath of the Wild style Link walk around character with the Master Sword and a Hyrule Shield. And it would just that'd be so cool. I would 100% wait an hour in line to do that meet and greet. Because that'd just be fun. So I have no expectation that it'll happen, but But I would much rather that than Pokemon. But again, I think Pokemon's almost too big not to put in there. And unfortunately, like we were talking about earlier, there's not really enough space in the studio's park to expand. Because that was the original rumor back, again, 2-3 years ago, I think, was that they were going to put something Pokemon related over in studios where the sprung tents for Halloween Horror Nights currently are. Man, I don't know if y'all can hear it, but I've got a cat at my door that is really angry that she's not allowed in here while I'm streaming. She is very upset. But yeah, there was talk that Pokemon might go into studios over in that Sprungton area, and obviously that doesn't seem like it's very likely to happen. Might do, but I don't think anybody's actually expecting that's where the Pokemon Snap Ride's going to go. Definitely seems like it's... I think the permits were very clear for whatever was seen. Again, I don't remember the exact details because it was just a couple days ago that this came out and I briefly saw it. But yeah, it is what it is. As far as... I worry about restaurants in Pokemon World. Like, this is the kind of thing that my brain goes to, for better or worse. But how do you do restaurants in a Pokemon-themed world? Because it's like, oh, we're eating some chicken. Wait, is that a Pidgey? Like, oh no. Like, how do you do themed food? Like, okay, apparently I have to let the cat in. Chat says I have to let the cat in. I hear you. See, the problem is that now by letting her in, she's going to have to come up and get on microphone. She's going to have to say hi. This is a problem now. But anyway, how you do restaurants in Pokemon World, meat serving restaurants in a Pokemon World, already the question of, like, there's a lot of things that the Pokemon IP does not answer. A lot of very interesting questions. And they understandably so. It's a game meant for kids. There's certain things that they're just not interested in. I mean, the number of fish type Pokemon that exist, and like, it's Japan, like, you know, you're eating fish, like sushi is a thing. So how many Magikarps are you eating? and is that a thing? Are we opening a sushi restaurant in this Pokemon themed zone, our Pokemon land? Is it going to... Okay, hold on. I've got a... You could hear her. Uh-oh. Oh, no. Name them all after Pikachu Nuggets. Oh, no. See, here's the problem. Pikachu's supposed to be a mouse, so I'm pretty sure Pikachu Nuggets refers to something not meat-related. Pikachu Nuggets sounds like Pikachu's leavings, but Pidgey Nuggets, Pidgey Nuggets, and some Tauros burgers, and like, yeah, it's just not. I don't think that that's quite what Nintendo's going for in the Universal theme park collaboration. So it'll be interesting to, specifically what makes me think about this is Mythos, because if we're doing Pokemon in Lost Continent, Mythos, it's almost actually a meme now because of the sign out front. But and if you're unfamiliar with the sign, it's that it was voted the best theme park restaurant for years and years on end for the Golden Ticket Awards, and deservedly so. Like, Mythos brought a level of sit-down quality that now we kind of expect in the theme parks. Like, you look at Disney's sit-down restaurants, especially in Epcot, which have largely changed. Like, when you look at the menu on a lot of those places, obviously, Le Cellier and what was the previous branding on the French restaurant? But okay, yeah, you had the teppanyaki in Japan, but historically speaking, the sit-down restaurant quality in Epcot back in the day was not. It was not. It was still like it had a pass because it was a theme park, right? It was not top tier, and after Mythos, after kind of the early 2000s, yep, I see you, baby cat. After the early 2000s, you started to see an increase. Oh, she's actually going to get on microphone, isn't she? What, you want to? Yes, it's a microphone. You burn into it? Okay. All right, you have to go down. Thank you. Anyway, as I was saying, I think the legacy of Mythos as a restaurant is such that it will be tough for them to do in a Pokemon world is my concern. I think that they can absolutely do that. And I think I don't think I know that Universal's food and beverage team are up to the task, because the food and beverage in Epic Universe is incredible. Like, they even the quick serve, the amount of insanely delicious sit down restaurants in Universal parks that go completely unrated by people is already bad enough. But then you get to Epic Universe, and they've got the Atlantic, they've got the Blue Dragon, they've got more traditional restaurant, but then they've got, I mean, obviously Pizza Moon's kind of the memeable one, but even the Black Goblet, the Goblet Noir in Wizarding Paris is just incredibly good food. And they've upgraded the menu at Das Steakhouse, the vampire themed restaurant, and that food looks amazing now. Yeah, it's just, and the Oak and Star, which again is quick service. They've done this hybrid quick service thing where you order mobile, but then it's delivered to your table, and that has allowed them to serve sit down quality at more of a quick service turnaround, and I mean, it's theme park food, so it's relatively expensive for quick service anyway, so the prices aren't terrible. And it's just, I have no doubt that they can do some really good Pokemon themed food. It's just, I think it does kind of, like the crab cakes. maybe don't. As a serious answer, make it anime themed. Like tea shops and ramen shops have decor, promote gyms and tournaments and stuff, and the food is just real world food. Yeah, I mean, I think that is kind of what, especially from an anime perspective, and I think in universe, that is largely what Pokemon is doing. The problem is we don't see, like, if somebody's eating a cheeseburger, well, we've seen like Miltank and Tauros, right? And there might be, I'm not an expert on all gens of all Pokemon. There's like 1,000 of them now, so forgive me if there's other ones that I'm not aware of. But we've seen a couple cow type Pokemon, the idea that somebody's chomping down on a burger and it's not one of those cow Pokemon, like, well, then where's the cows? Oh, we're eating mutton soup. Okay, so that's a Wooloo, right? Like, that's one of those sheep Pokemon. We've seen that. Like, I think the very nature of, I mean, again, the age old joke on Pokemon is that it's, you know, a dog fighting simulator for kids. So I get it. Like, we don't talk about what's actually going on with these animals and their welfare because it's kind of a it's kind of a weird universe that Nintendo has created here, or the Pokemon Company, Game Freak, I should say. Let's see how much speed we're having. Oh yeah, this will be great. So, I fully agree that, yeah, a ramen shop do, like, I mean, again, it kind of also depends on what region they're going with, because I'm sure they'll want to do regional cuisine based on whatever region they go with. Like I said, they could entirely go with a novel region, instead of something. I don't believe there's been a Greek islands themed. I could be wrong. I'm not that deep in the Pokemon lore. The gens that I'm aware of aren't. So I don't know that there's been a Greek themed Pokemon, or that there's one that they could lean into to utilize the existing Lost Continent structures or aesthetic. But yeah, I think like if it's themed on, I don't think they'll do the France one because they already have a France area. But let's just say they go with the Hawaii themed one. The Hawaii themed region. That, okay, you do some, you know, Pokeballs and you do some, oh no, that, never mind. I've walked myself right into a problem again. So never mind. Don't do that. Name combos after drinks after trainers. To show your fandom, not insinuating trainers are the food. Yeah. I just think I'm hoping, I fully suspect they are. I'm fully expect that the team behind Universal's branding, they're very good at what they do, clearly. And I would dare say they're at least not as ridiculous on their own hype as Disney is at the moment with the weird Imagineering clothes that we were talking about earlier. But Universal's branding arm knows what they're doing. I'm sure that they are being cautious with how they treat Pokemon and with how they, you know, approach this as a brand and as a fandom, and I'm sure that they are cognizant of how poorly it could go for them if they're not careful, because it is definitely one of those, again, theming food after Pokemon just feels like it's a tripping hazard that they don't want to get into. But I'm pretty sure they'll handle it. It'll be interesting to see what happens to Mythos, if nothing else for that region. Now, could they do like Split? Could it be we're all wrong and it's actually both Pokemon and Zelda. I mean, that might just be copium on my part of wanting to believe. But maybe, maybe they do something like that and that frees them up to not have to deal with some of the more awkward elements around Pokemon. Just, okay, you get your Pokemon stuff in and then you come over here to eat at the Mythos place. And, you know, the Poke Snacks place is like the food that you're getting at it's a snack stand and it's all themed to what you would feed your Pokemon, right? Which again is something that we don't really talk about. What are the Pokemon actually eating? Because we're feeding this snack to a Pikachu, and okay, it's a mouse. It's probably eating, you know, like or the cows or whatever. They're probably eating, you know, vegetation of some sort. You know, it's probably just reconstituted vegetables or something. But then, what do you mean this Pokemon is themed after a predator and you know, we're feeding it snacks? What's in that snack? Is it other Pokemon? But I don't think I think Universal's cautious enough that they won't do anything too ridiculous. Who knows? Maybe they'll do something crazy with it. So we're over 200K in August 29th. So we're doing okay, but we're just at the edge. So I want to build a few things too. Have we done everything in there? Yep. Have we done everything in here? Do we have a... I don't see an observation tower. I know I built one in the last park, but I've been yammering and not paying that close of attention to what I'm building in this one. Like I said, this particular scenario is a bit of a slow one to play casually. It's not bad. It's still a fun one, but it's not the most engaging because it is so focused on a value at an end date and not an active, like, grow your park kind of thing. It's just set some prices, run up some money, and then spend it all at the end. And we're finally at the 2-hour mark. We were going to stream for 2 hours, and it's 2 hours, so we'll try to finish it up here. I mean, it's only less than a month left on this. So once we get it to where it's solidly over 200K, we can fast forward. Will that hold until the end of October? Watch it dip below 200 right at the last second. Like, that's my worry, is that we're going to have sat through this entire scenario and then it's going to fail right at the end. Mm. Yeah, there it's... Well, see, it's like it goes down and then it goes up. Isn't there a... No, there's not. There's the weekly, there's the park rating, and then... Oh, no, this is park value. Yeah, see, there it is. It's dipping and then going back up. But this was where we were kind of having a problem. We can build, like, one more ride here towards the last week or so. We already have a slide. We already have a carousel. I don't think we have a Ferris wheel anywhere. That's not beneficial. Let's see. Maybe here. Yeah, there we go. I do love being able to make really narrow... Hey, there it is. We achieved the park value. Cool. And hey, we got right at the end, we got worst food award. Nobody wants to eat our food, but that's because they have to pay for the bathrooms where we have the best park bathrooms. All right. Well, that's been 2 hours of Roller Coaster Tycoon and me yammering about some theme park news and some goings on. Mostly Universal stuff. And that's because most of the news this week was Universal stuff. And again, go check out some POVs of Hollywood Drift because it's looking like a legitimately very cool coaster, very unique. Gonna do one of these again next week, probably same bat time, same bat channel. So hope to see you guys then. Thanks for hanging out with me, and we'll see you in the next one.